Right, hello, this is video blog 4. We're reflecting on the week we did on propaganda with the kids at Benjamin Franklin. To start off, I was a little nervous going into this one because, it dealt with politics, something I'm not good at, and I'm sure they're not as they're 6th graders, they're not too informed. But as we were going through it, I realized that this lesson could have been given, with, political knowledge aside, I guess. And we could focus on propaganda and the techniques that go into making propaganda ads and campaigns. And we could focus on the techniques themselves and what they achieve without even really focusing on the political elements that they entail. So we sort of smooth that over by keeping things simple and not really going into the politics themselves. I think this week, combined with last week, we realized that we really have a certain process of doing things, process of laying out our curriculum that works really well for us. We we talk a little bit in the beginning, we do a short activity, then we talk a little bit more, and then we make them do a long activity. I think that's really works well because it holds their attention long enough. And then they're excited to finally do the final thing at the end. And what we've also been doing is in our sort of second portion of talking, because advertisements and this political propaganda one, they went so much hand in hand because, or campaign ads are basically just advertising, for a person. So this week and last week went really nicely together. And on both days we took, this time to go over techniques, which whether it was techniques for advertising or techniques for making, a political ad or campaigning for a candidate. And then in their long activity again, at the end we had them relate, use those techniques we talked about in their activity. So there was this really nice way of relating one thing to the other that we've sort of achieved, and we like to use that format if we could stick to it. I think the main sort of points we got across to them and the main things that we achieved with them, they would be able to define propaganda, I think, at the end of this lesson, which maybe they had heard of it at the beginning, but I think we really put a solid definition with it, which was our plan. Besides that, we related last week to this week in that they remembered everything about advertising, and we made sure they know that political campaigns are just sort of advertising a person, so you can use a lot of those same techniques, and it really is the same idea whether you're advertising for a product or for a candidate. Either way, these ads want you to do something, and I really think they got that point at the end. And finally, that media has political agendas. I think we really hit that point home. These campaigns, some of the campaigns we watched for Obama and stuff, they sounded all sort of lovey-dovey, really trying to win his campaign, but we made sure that they knew that all of these ads have political agendas. They're there for a reason, and they're trying to get a certain point across and ultimately trying to get votes. So sort of relating this to the reading was a little bit different this week because it was talking, about, things that weren't exactly, I think, pedagogical, but some of the things I sort of picked up that I could relate to this week was the power of images to represent reality. When we watched in my section, we watched an Obama campaign about his energy plan, so one of his campaign ads, and we watched it like 5 times because they were kind of slow to pick up on these things. But we looked at the image of the American flag and we talked about what that means. It sort of associates it with this feeling of patriotism, and it sort of can mobilize viewers as long as they're patriotic. Also, we talked about in the ad, Obama was out in backyards shaking hands with people, and these images of Obama sort of relating to like the everyday man was sort of it was a powerful image for the campaign, and it achieved a certain thing for Obama. Besides that, there was a quote I found in the reading that I thought was really useful. It says, "Much of the television's power to signify lay in its visual and documentary character, its inscription to be a window on the world, showing things as they are." So I know we talked about sort of the use of television to advertise political figures, and as a mass communicator. And during the ad, we talked about, specifically Obama in the backyard shaking hands with, the average Joe. And we talked about, though Obama really does that, there's sort of an agenda behind that. He's not only trying to relate to the everyday man, but, he wants to look like he's relating to the everyday man also. So that all goes back to the power of imagery in these political ads. Finally, just talking about aesthetic pleasures of war. The article talks about what we actually see on TV in relation to the war in Iraq. Things like, to sort of, I guess, mobilize viewers into feeling a certain way about it. For example, low-angle shots on soldiers to sort of signify power. Or another thing they talked about was silhouettes sort of in the sunset of these soldiers. And again, when we went through our political ads, we tried to talk about sort of the appeal to the aesthetics. We talked about music they used, images they used, certain scenery, background they used, and of course, when in the Obama-McCain election ads, the way that things changed. When they were talking about McCain, the music was sort of dark and dismal, and then you moved on to Obama, and it was happy, cheery. So we portrayed that every single part of the advertisement had a purpose. Whether it was just the music, the images, nothing was, everything was planned, everything was sort of set out to happen a different way. So I think in general we really nailed some good points home. I think it's good that we kept it more short and simple, while maybe we only, maybe they walked away with 3 main points versus a little bit more, but I think they know those 3 points better than, had we tried to talk about more. I think we definitely achieved more, and they definitely understand a little better. So we'll see if we can stick with that next week. Besides that, we're looking forward to next week, and we'll see you then.